Hello and welcome to my 2-year review of the Logi Combo Touch keyboard for my iPad Pro. Just to hit it off with a conclusion right away, the best value experience is to buy this keyboard for an iPad that's probably 3 or 5 years old. You'll get the same experience as you would on a brand new iPad Pro and the keyboard, because I have this keyboard set for a family member who has my previous iPad Pro 10.5, and the experience is exactly the same. The keyboard is identical and iOS works exactly the same way. The only difference is the iPad Pro is a bit more powerful for tasks like video editing and using Procreate, etc. But for the most part, my previous family member, actually my current family member, they have the same experience as I have, but for a third of the cost. And also, if you're looking at using this as a productivity tool and thinking, should you buy an M1 MacBook or an iPad Pro with this keyboard? Don't go off and buy the iPad Pro with a keyboard right away. If you already have an iPad, just buy a used Bluetooth mouse and keyboard and try the experience. Try to see what it's like to use the iPad with a mouse and keyboard. Do the apps you want to use function in the way that you expect? And that's a small cost because you can buy a used mouse and keyboard for probably like £5 or £10, and it's going to give you some gorgeous insights into whether or not a mouse and keyboard on an iPad is a substitute for a MacBook. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. Let's get into the hardware itself. And right off the bat, here comes the magic. As you can see, I am typing some stuff and you can only see half the screen. But as soon as you connect the keyboard, just like that, you've basically doubled the screen real estate of your iPad. And this is one of the things that I really love about it. It gives you a new experience of your iPad. It makes the display bigger. And it's actually fantastic when you go in online and you Google for stuff and you look for things like cake. You don't have the keyboard taking over the entire screen. And when I actually bought this, the first thing I was wondering, is this believable? Is this believable as a laptop? And usually the litmus test is the trackpad. Like if you're a Mac user, you know that PCs, one of the biggest weaknesses are the trackpads. But here, there is no lag, zero lag. The trackpad works as well as it does on a Mac. It's glass, it's smooth, all the gestures work, so there's no learning curve and you don't feel like experience is downgraded. Actually, as soon as you connect it and use the trackpad, it feels like you're using an Apple product. This is probably the most Apple-like third-party product that I have used. And it's actually even better because if you look at the keyboard, you have the shortcuts up there like multifunctional keys. And you don't even have to hold down a function key, like in order to skip music and put the brightness up and down. It's also backlit and it's so good. It's really, really good. It's an amazing keyboard. I can use it for hours and hours. And that's what I do. Like this is my main Swiss Army device. And I purchased it because I go between two different homes. And I got tired of bringing the iPad plus my big power brick and thought, I already have an iPad. Let me give my old one to a family member. And then I can buy an iPad Pro and this keyboard. And I genuinely use it a lot because my eyes get tired from using an iPhone for too long. And this is also so small that it can sit with me on the couch. And because it's protected all the way around, I'm not as nervous when my kids are around me. But if I'm using this, I'm always nervous because this is so much more fragile. If it falls, it's going to dent, it's going to crack. And if someone accidentally sits on it, it's going to break as well. And I like to keep my products mint in order for the resale value to still be high. And that's why I like that this is also a lot easier to put away. I can just put this like under the couch or on the side, and it is, it is fully protected. Meanwhile, this, if I've stopped using it, I need to put it away from the room or somewhere safe to ensure that it doesn't get damaged by the kids. And it's a lot bigger as well, which makes it a lot less practical to put into some places. So that is why I purchased this. And what do you think about the material? It's weird because when you see the material online, you think it's normal texture, but it's textile meets maybe like the texture of a suitcase, of a fabric suitcase, but that's also laminated. So it's quite interesting because I've had this for 2 years, and you can see it's worn really well. Like, you can't tell that this is 2 years old. And also the hinge itself still works incredibly well. And I am very much a guy who is all about function rather than aesthetics, because I've had iPads since the iPad 2, and I've bought pretty cases before that are quite thin and all of that. But then some of them are fiddly to use, or the quality, it doesn't last as long. So that's why with this, I really wanted one that is fully protected, because also with iPads, replacing the display if it breaks is really expensive. And depending on the age of your iPad, it might even be uneconomical to fix the screen, because the screen might be 70% of the value of your iPad. So therefore, keeping them protected makes a big difference. And here, it's also still protected even if I disconnect the keyboard itself, which is a huge plus. And this hinge is just incredible. I absolutely love it. This does add a bit of bulk. I think the keyboard and the case weigh about 500 grams, which is roughly the weight of the iPad itself. So you do feel a difference in weight, but for me, it's not an issue because I'm not someone who uses my iPad on the go, as in I stand up holding it a lot. Usually, if I'm using this, I'm sitting. I'm either in bed, on the couch, on a train, or on an airplane. So for me, the weight is not really much of an issue. And the weight is outweighed, haha, by the functionality of this. And you can see that it has a smart dock connector. And it's probably the only third-party iPad keyboard that has this. And that means that there is no delay when it comes to typing. There's no latency. You plug it in and you can type right away, compared with Bluetooth keyboards where you need to press a button, wake up the keyboard, and then if you need to disconnect Bluetooth for any reason, the keyboard will stop working. But with this, you don't need to worry about it, and there's no charging to worry about it at all, because it just gets its power from the iPad. So as I said, it feels OEM, which is fantastic. So the hardware gets thumbs up. You can see that there is a little bit of stretching going on there, but it's because I hold it that way when I rip the keyboard off. But this is fine. It's 2 years old, and it doesn't really affect the functionality at all. And about the quality as well, this is actually my second one of these, because I got this as a replacement 2 weeks ago because my other one stopped working. What's great is that this is a product that comes with 2 years manufacturer's warranty, which I wasn't even aware of until mine stopped working. So that is really good to know, because if you buy the Apple one and some other third-party ones, it might only just be 1 year's warranty, which means that you either need to get Apple Care Plus, but you can always buy additional warranty. Like if you buy this from Amazon, you can even pay a couple of pounds extra for 3 years warranty, which I think is worthwhile for any product that's going to be subject to a lot of wear and tear. But as far as size goes, we can compare it to a piece of A4 paper. It's good. It's smaller, and this is what I like about it. It means that it fits anywhere. I can put this on the kitchen counter, on an airplane table, on a train table. It is much more practical than a laptop. And then we can compare to my M1 MacBook. And yeah, it's actually, the MacBook is similar in size to an A4 page, which is interesting. I wasn't even aware of it, but these two have the same system on chip, M1 MacBook Pro. Um, Not M1 MacBook Pro, M1 chip. Sorry, this is completely unscripted. I'm doing this off the cuff, one take. So back to the iPad itself. Let's talk software. So software is where there is a big difference between these two. So let me open up like ChatGPT. Here I've asked a random question. And if you use the desktop, you can usually just like use the cursor to highlight this text, but it's not possible here. Here instead, I need to click there, click select text, and this is where I can then choose which text that I want to highlight. This is actually very kind of OpenAI to offer this, because there are actually several applications where you cannot highlight the text the way you would on a MacBook. And this brings me to some of the cons, and that is that there are applications where the experience is dumbed down on the iPad. The software drawbacks are very noticeable in applications for spreadsheets. You can see that the selections up here are significantly fewer. And I think usually on the Mac, I can choose a cell and I can then specify um, whether it's whether it's a formula, number, or text. I don't seem to have the same option. I can go into cell, I can choose the number format, I can choose plain text, but let's see, can I find the formula? Maybe I can, maybe I won't. But if you do a lot of spreadsheet work, I can tell you right now, this is going to frustrate you. Things are either going to take a lot longer to do, or you're not going to be able to do them, and you're going to be angry in the process. I think the best analogy would be like trying to eat a steak with a spoon. It's doable, but it's going to take you a lot longer. It's not going to be as precise, and it's potentially going to be frustrating as well. So that is really important to bear in mind, which is why I recommend to not just buy this right away, but just get a used Bluetooth mouse and keyboard and try using that with the iPad for a month, not even 2, 3 days, because there is also a honeymoon period with this where you use it initially and you're like, oh my God, this is really amazing. It's like a mini MacBook. And then as you start to do more advanced workload, you then start to become aware of the limitations and feel like, maybe I should just grab my MacBook. And you might then reach a point where actually you might have just been better off having a MacBook and just a normal iPad without the keyboard. Some of the apps are getting a bit better. Like 2 years ago, like there were a lot of apps that were incredibly dumbed down, but now we have Canva, for example, where the iPad experience for editing content is actually decent. But then there are also products where they don't put as much effort into improving the iPad versions as they do with the desktop versions. And you might even get a desktop feature that doesn't come to the iPad until several months later. And so those are the software issues. And they also extend to the USB-C port. It has one here. And I actually use my controller with the iPad. I play Roblox with the kids, and it's perfect. I can just rip the keyboard off, play with the controller, and it's blended. But this also has USB-C. And one issue when it comes to video editing is that you cannot edit video off an external hard drive, which is what I do. Like I have a Samsung T7 500 gigabytes, and anytime I record on the iPhone, I put those files on the external drive, and I connect the drive to my iPad, and I do all the editing off the drive, all the rendering files, etc. And for some videos that are 1 hour long, the complete size of the files is like 200 gigabytes. So if you have an iPad that's 256 gigs, you're not going to be able to transfer all of those files over to your iPad. But then also you can't edit those files off the actual drive either. So there are those hardware limitations as well, which is why I'm saying don't rush out to buy these. But let's speak about how I use it. So let's get over to my couch. And here's an example of a place where I might use the iPad, like I'm on the floor, I'm assembling some furniture and doing something. Then I have the iPad here with me. I look on, I look at the YouTube instructions. And as you can see, the screen is incredibly stable, really, really stable. I can even grab this pillow and I can put the laptop on top of that, and I can even type at an angle. Look at that angle. And this is the great thing about this, like this being this flexible. It doesn't topple over at all. And I can grab it, I can put it on the floor, keyboard came off, click back. It's so easy to move around. And I also have this couch desk that I got for Christmas as a present. And with the mouse and keyboard, I love the Logi MX. And under there, I switched to setting number 2, which is the iPad. I switched Bluetooth off, waiting for AC, and Bluetooth is on. This is super comfortable. By the way, I highly recommend buying one of these because having this on you is easy peasy. I'm just going to grab this as a whole. You can see it is not toppling over, super stable. And this is where how I use the iPad a lot in the evening or when I'm doing some light work, and the shortcuts work as well, as in the shortcuts on the mouse. And this feels like I'm using a smaller MacBook, which is good. And this, you can see the stand fits neatly into that slot down there. And my MacBook, it fits around here as well, which is good because it's the 13-inch version. And then if I don't want to do any productive work, I lift it to the side. I grab my iPad and I quickly disconnect the keyboard. And there you go, it's in my lap. And I can also use the keyboard in my lap as well in very weird positions. There you go. I can use it like that. And this truly highlights the flexibility of this because you can use it in so many different positions. And the screen also angles quite far. So with the hinge, there's almost infinite positions. So here it's borderline flat. It's a very well thought out product. Like it's an exceptionally well thought out one. And you can see the backlighting there as well. I can switch it completely off. Not sure you can see it or not, but I'm trying anyway. And what's my conclusion? Would I still buy this today? I would say yes. It does gives you a very different experience of the iPad. And if you're someone who is not a content creator and you don't do any freelancing work or you don't do any kind of techie stuff, then this can be your laptop. This can literally be your laptop. And the good thing is that it has the same apps as your iPhone. So therefore, once you get off the iPhone and come on here, everything is there. So you're really familiar with all the icons and everything is synced, which is excellent. However, if you are maybe a student that does computer science or want to learn more about computing and have the freedom to install different applications and do gaming, modification, and whatnot, that is where buying a laptop might be a lot better because you're less likely to encounter constraints. Meanwhile, with this, you're really limited to the apps that are in the App Store and the functionality that Apple offers you as well. So it is really one of those philosophical questions like, is this an Apple? Is this a laptop replacement or not? And that entirely depends on your use case. For some, it will. For others, it won't. Some might just prefer to own a laptop and just use an iPad normally. Others might just want to own this. And then there's people like me who are happy to own both. I hope that this is an insightful review. Please ask me any questions in the comments, and thank you for watching.